The story starts in a world full of magic, and all humans use magic on a daily basis. In this world, there existed a boy who did not fit the concept of the world. He lived in the forest and his name was Mash. He trained like crazy every day, and his favorite food was cream puffs. Then we see Mash's father, Regro Bernadette. He was 75 years old. He drank tea and said that nothing can upset him anymore because of his accumulated life experience. Suddenly, Mash accidentally destroyed the door. His father was angry with Mash and asked why he had destroyed the door. So Mash replied that he forgot whether to push or pull to open the door. Then Mash tried to fix the door and Mash was a bit clumsy and accidentally destroyed the door. So Mash apologized to his father. After that, his father asked if Mash had completed his training schedule for the day. Then Mash wanted to know why all of his workouts are physical. His father didn't want to tell him that he's not an ordinary person who can't use magic. Then his father wanted to go into town and said that he shouldn't break the door again. Mash said he already have forgotten if he had to pull or push to open the door. Before his father went into town, he forbid Mash from going into town alone. When his father was gone, he looked at a flyer about cream puffs. Following that, Mash decided to break his promise, and he wanted to go into town to buy some delicious cream puffs. Mash had arrived in the town, and all he saw was that all humans can use magic. Then he discovered the cream puff store. When he was paying, he accidentally crushed the coins, and the pastry chef was afraid of his strength. Following this, Mash repaired the coins back to normal, and the pastry chef was overcome with fear. Suddenly a strong wind blew, and people saw that Mash didn't have a mark on his face. Everyone was scared of Mash and stared at him. Then we see the magic policeman, Brad, who was looking at a newspaper article. Meanwhile, he was torturing a criminal who stole something. The officer wanted to punish him, but suddenly he got a call about a boy without a mark. Then we see Mash. He had a guilty conscience because he broke his promise to his father. On his way home, he bumped into the magic policeman Terry, who was drunk. The drunk magic policeman was angry at Mash for getting his uniform dirty. Mash then offered him a bitten cream puff as compensation. The cop got angry and slapped his cream puff out of his hand. Then Mash tore up the cop's uniform because he wanted to clean it, and he didn't realize he was causing a big problem. Suddenly, Terry supervisor Brad showed up. He was looking for a boy without mark in the face. Mash didn't even notice that he was causing problems and ate his cream puffs calmly like nothing is happening. When the policeman wanted to arrest him, Mash's father showed up. He apologized and ran away with him. Brad just laughed at them, and he prepared to cast a spell. As a result, he created a magic bird that was following Mash and his father to their home. Mash made it home unharmed, and his father scolded him for breaking their promise. Mash said sorry, and he was totally depressed after that. Mash's father told him he should do his morning routine again as his punishment. Then he gave his dad the cream puffs, and his dad opened the door for him so he wouldn't destroy them again. Mash was on his way to work out again, and his father was worried because he knew he couldn't hide Mash in the forest forever. Suddenly Brad showed up. He wanted to find Mash and asked Retro where his son is. Mash was working out, and he completed his morning routine in just 5 minutes. Even the animals in the forest were scared by Mash's enormous power. Then Mash decided to go back home to eat more cream puffs. Suddenly he heard policeman Brad's voice. He said that the magic police are responsible for eliminating people without magic. He also said Regro will be punished. Mash's father refused to cooperate and was thrown against the wall. Brad threatened him and attacked him with dangerous magic. Regro didn't say a word about his son. Then we see Regro past. He was a magician without talent in his past. He was mistreated by everyone and rejected by his family because of his weak power. Since no one needed him, Regro decided to commit suicide. As he was about to take his own life, he heard a baby cry. In that moment, he discovered the abandoned Mash and decided to raise him as his father. Regro vowed to always protect Mash, even if they are not related by blood. Then Regro yelled for Mash to run away, hoping he could hear his words somewhere to save himself. Brad got angry, and he was ready to kill Mash's father. Then Mash jumped through the door. And he knocked out the magic police officers. The cop Terry underestimated Mash. Following that, Mash beat him up with ease. His father wanted to know why he didn't escape, and Mash replied that they are a family. Brad just laughed at him, and the magic cops looked down on Mash for not being able to use magic. Brad then wanted to cast a spell that he even used to defeat a dragon. So Mash was attacked by a strong spell, and it resulted in an explosion. Brad couldn't believe that Mash deflected his magic with only using his hands. Brad panicked and became scared of Mash, who simply blocked his attack with ease. However, Brad wanted to use his strongest attack, so Brad fires a powerful spell at Mash. And he blocked his attacks without any problem. Then, as the magician continued to fire, Mash deflected the magic like it was a volleyball. Brad kept trying to defeat Mash, but he just played with Brad. Then Mash picked up a magic wand. Mash couldn't do any magic, and he threw the magic wand at Brad like a baseball. Brad couldn't believe about his enormous power, and Mash threatened to kill him the next time. Brad suddenly started laughing and offered him a deal. So Brad said that once a year the best student is chosen by God. Mash had managed to become the gods chosen at a magic school. As a result, society would also accept him, and in return Brad demands the fortune and prestige that he would get with it. So Mash accepted Brad's offer and they made a deal. His father was concerned for his son but believed that Mash had grown into a good boy. Now Mash was determined to become the best student at the Magic Academy in order to achieve his goal of living peacefully with his father. In the days that followed, the Eastern School of Magic entrance exam started for Mash. Before the first exam began, Teacher Lucci watched the candidates studying. Suddenly he sees Mash, who was training with high weights. Lucci couldn't believe seeing a muscle freak in their prestigious school. Mash only looked at books on muscle building, and his father was concerned that Mash would not pass the entrance exam. Then the teacher Lucci greeted all the students. Lucci was very famous and admired by all the students. Suddenly, Lucci conjured up the first exam that amazed everyone. Mash commented that he could also prepare for the exam beforehand without magic. Lucci got mad at Mash, but he was adamant that Mash would fail the exam. The first written exam has been put under a spell, with candidates having to use magic to put the letters in the right order. Mash wanted to pass the exam. As a result, he threatened the letters to put themselves in the right order, so Mash was able to immediately pass the first test without magic. After that, Mash, with his strong muscles, insisted on further testing. Mash had so much physical strength that the other students thought he could use magic. Mash passed all previous tests with ease. For the next test, the students had to find their way out of a dangerous maze full of traps and monsters. In the maze, Mash was immediately approached by a girl named Lemon. She wanted to find a way out with him. She was very clumsy and she activated on their way all the traps. Mash was depressed because they were so slow. When Mash tried to find his way out, Lemon tried to stop him. The girl handcuffed him with a spell. Mash just freed himself with his strength, and he ran away to find the way out. Suddenly, a strong monster appeared behind Lemon. The monster attacked Lemon and knocked her wand out of her hand. Lemon froze in fear, and the monster wanted to kill her. She accepted her death because she felt guilty about wanting to sabotage Mash. At the last moment Mash appeared. He punched the monster and defeated it with just one punch. Mash has risen. Lemon immediately fell in love with him. Mash then smashed the walls with his muscular strength. Everyone was scared and they couldn't believe that Mash just made it to the finish with his muscle power. The school principal took an interest in Mash. All the students were angry with Mash, and the sensitive Mash became sad. Lemon then told the truth that Teacher Lucci promised her to let her pass the exam by sabotaging Mash on the exam. She also said that Mash saved her and he proposed to her. Mash didn't know of any proposals, but he had too much of this, so now he had a wife. And the teacher was angry with Mash. Lucci wanted to kill Mash with a strong spell, but Mash broke his wand. Suddenly the school director, Wahlberg, appeared. He later wanted to punish Lucci for his behavior and said that he is starting the final exam now. The last test was an interview and Mash was teleported to another dimension. The principal then wanted to know his reason for choosing the Eastern Magic School. Mash said he wanted to live a peaceful life with his father and that's why he chose the Eastern Magic School. After that, he asked why Mash saved the girl. Mash replied that his feeling told him to save her. The principal liked Mash. Finally, the headmaster summoned a giant monster and asked how Mash would have acted if this were his opponent. However, Gro's soul was taken hostage in the doll. The principal wanted to see how Mash would react in a desperate situation. Suddenly, Mash tried to stop the monster with his bare hands, and everyone was shocked by Mash. The school principal knew Mash was strong, and he wanted to see him answer that as a strong person he would help the weak. Mash proves his kindness to him. Mash passed the exam and was accepted into Eastern Magic School. The following day Mash was in class. Mash tried to open a lock with magic. He used his muscle power. However, the teacher was angry at Mash, and Mash said that he isn't good with magic in the least. Another student was shocked by Mash bad boy's attitude. He thought Mash was a troublemaker. When Finn was looking for his room, he didn't want to share a room with Mash. Suddenly, he found his room and couldn't see a door. Mash already broke it, and they introduced themselves. Finn remarked that Mash is a nice guy but a muscle freak. The two became friends, and Mash offered to share his cream puffs with Finn. So the two ate delicious cream puffs. In the days that followed, we see Mash eating cream puffs, and suddenly he realizes that he needs a broom for tomorrow's class. Mash wanted to borrow a broom from Finn because he accidentally bought a cream puff instead of a broom. The next day, the students tried to learn how to fly with their broom. All of them used their magic and were able to make the broom levitate. Mash then gave it a go, but he was unable to make the broom levitate because he lacked magic power. Suddenly another student appeared. He was looking down on Mash. So Mash used his muscle power and his broom hopped into his hand. The other students said Mash cheated and he was angry. After that, the time trial started and Mash was asked to a race. The loser had to become the winner errand boy. Mash accepted the challenge and they competed against each other. The teacher wondered if Mash could ride a broom at all. Then the race started and Mash won immediately. Nobody knew what happened because Mash was much too fast. Finn was the only one who saw Mash's incredible speed. He threw his broom and he was available to ride it. So Mash won the bet and the other student was angry. Suddenly someone closed his mouth with magic, and another student appeared. He introduced himself as Lloyd Cavil, and Mash thought his name was called Spot Cabbage. Afterwards, Cavil was stopped by the teacher, and he told Mash that he wanted to meet up with him later. He then bullied the other student for failing to win against Mash. Cavil was very violent, and he enjoyed beating up other students. Meanwhile, Mash learned from his friend Finn that Cavil is a big bully in their school. He also learned that everyone is afraid of him because Cavil is the son of a high-ranking member of the Bureau of Magic. The many words was way too complicated for Mash. So Finn summarized it and said that he is friend with the vice principal. As a result, everyone is afraid of Cavil. Later, Mash made cream puffs, and he would have liked to share the delicious cream puffs with his father. So he remembered Brad's words, and he really wanted to become a divine visioner. Meanwhile, Cavil waited for Mash, who had forgotten their meeting. The next day, Mash realized his book was broken and Cavil showed up. Mash apologized for forgetting their agreement. Afterwards, Cavil said he can help him become a divine visioner. So Mash should do whatever he says, and he would use his connection to help him. Mash accepted his offer and he had to become his henchman. Then Mash did everything Cavil told him, and Finn felt guilty. In the days that followed, Mash book broke again, and he wanted to use Finn book. Afterwards, Mash shared his cream puffs with Finn, and Mash said he was lucky to have found such a nice friend as Finn. After class, Mash was bullied by Cavil, and he looked down on him. Mash didn't mind being bullied by Cavil, so he cleaned the floor and he realized he had Finn book. Then we see Finn. He was bullied by Cavil, and he was responsible for destroying Mash books. Finn didn't want to do bad things to his friend Mash, so he refused to obey Cavil mean orders, and he was beaten up by him with magic. Then Mash was searching for his friend Finn, and he found his friend injured. Mash was worried about Finn, and his friend apologized for destroying his school books. Finn was crying, and he regretted doing the mean things because Mash thought he was a good friend. Mash was angry that Cavil was bullying his friend Finn. Suddenly, Mash ran towards Cavil, and he smashed his head into the ground. Mash ordered him to apologize to Finn, and Finn was worried that Mash would be expelled from school. After Mash knocked out Cavil, he realized he could be expelled from school. The vice principal, Foreman, then showed up. He is a friend of Lloyd's father and has accused Mash of committing an act of violence. As a result, Mash and Finn were threatened that they would be expelled from school. Also, he looked down on them both because they are ordinary students. Suddenly, Mash attacked the vice principal. Foreman tried to fight back, but Mash didn't give him a chance to attack. He then dug a hole through the concrete floor, and Mash planned to bury him. Mash threw him into the hole, and he started filling the hole to bury him. Then Mash said he would bury him so he wouldn't get kicked out of the school. He also threatened Foreman, who was screaming in fear. After that, Mash was called by the school principal, Wahlberg. Mash thought he was summoned for using the dorm kitchen because he didn't have permission to bake his cream puffs. Wahlberg answered, he was called to the office because he hit Cavil and bury vice principal Foreman. Mash learned that the Bureau of Magic wanted to expel him from school. The reason was that they are the strongest power in their country, and Mash has done something forbidden. Suddenly, Wahlberg said he's on Mash's side because Mash is a good person who only wanted to protect his friend. The principal doesn't like the current Bureau of Magic. He hopes that a good man like Mash will become a divine visioner who will change their world. He then told Mash the conditions for becoming a divine visioner. Mash found out he had to collect coins, but accidentally fell asleep because he is a little bit stupid. Afterwards, Wahlberg said he wouldn't be expelled from school, and Mash went to his room. Meanwhile, Cavill and the vice principal were traumatized by Mash. In the days that followed, we saw Mash and Finn talking about cream puffs. Suddenly, an older student named Tom Knowles appeared. All the girls had a crush on Tom, and they made fun of Mash mushroom hairstyle. Mash was invited by Tom to a sport called duello. Mash then tried to explain to him that he couldn't ride a broomstick, but Tom didn't let him go and forced Mash to join their team. After that, they had a match, and Mash still couldn't fly on the broom. The game started and Mash just watched them fly in the sky. He wanted to go home and the viewers threw garbage at Mash because he didn't start to fly. Then the two teams played against each other, and Mash friends got worried. Suddenly Mash was yelled at by Tom. Mash think that Tom is crazy, and he told Mash that he must be strong like a strong bamboo. Tom wanted him to activate his bamboo power. So Tom tried to explain the rules of the sport duello to him. The magicians have to throw a ball into the opponent's ring. There is no magic in the sport, and Tom realized his team was losing. However, Tom wanted to return, and he believed in Mash. Suddenly, Tom was badly injured by the opposing team. Everyone was shocked, and the opponent lied and said it wasn't on purpose. Tom couldn't play anymore, and he was angry that the opponents played unfairly. Tom was sad that they would now lose the match, and the opponents looked down on Tom. As a result, Mash got angry, and he started using his cream puff's power. Mash then jumped into the air, and he was able to fly. Mash used his feet, and everyone was shocked that he could fly like that. Then Mash wanted to win the match, and the opponents underestimated him. They tried to stop him together as a team, but Mash just threw the ball into the goal. Mash scored, but the opposing team held a lead of more than 49 points. Suddenly the ball returned to Mash, and he had a strong technique, so he threw it again with an inhuman spin. Mash then threw more goals, and he repeated it throughout. Mash managed to score many points, and they set a record, so his team won by 999 points, and the Adler Dormitory won the game through Mash's incredible cream puff power. Also, after his win, Mash received the silver coin for his new record. Then Tom came to see him, and he was very proud of his bamboo brother. Tom hugged him and thanked Mash for the win. After that, we see Mash in a newspaper report. He was now famous, and another student harbored a grudge against Mash. He thought Mash was a softie and didn't accept him. The next day, Mash was harassed by Tom and Lemon. Mash just wanted to go to school normally, but Tom and Lemon were both crazy. They wanted Mash to join their group. Meanwhile, Finn refused to help him and pretended he was sleeping. Suddenly, Lance Ground showed up. He was very well known because he had 2 marks on his face. In addition, he ranked first in the entrance exams. Lance then said that Mash will now have a lot of fun with him. So Mash thought Lance wanted to play hide and seek with him. Then Lance showed a bottle, and he was able to imprison Mash's friends in the magic item. Lance said they'll meet in the woods if Mash wants to save his friends. They later met again in the woods, and Lance challenged him for his silver coin. Tom was surprised because only older students have 2 silver coins, and he was aware of how dangerous Lance is. Then we learned that most people are single-line magic users. Sometimes children are born with multiple marks. They are very special. They also have immense magical power and are very dangerous. Lance then made the rule that they fight against each other to the point of incapacitation. Then Lance said he couldn't lose against someone like Mash, who is a good guy who helps weak people. His friends warned him and said that Mash shouldn't fight because Lance is very dangerous. Mash immediately wanted to fight, and Lance changed their environment with a spell. Meanwhile, Regro and Brad were worried about Mash, and they hoped that he didn't cause problems. Suddenly, the ground shook, and Lance was ready to start their fight. Mash attacked him, and he was smashed into the ground with gravity magic. Lance said that a person who only thinks about others can never become the number one. So Mash tried to get up, and he proved the arrogant Lance that he didn't have to get up to attack him. Then he pulled a root out of the ground, and he was able to break Lance's spell. After that, Mash went into a boxing mode, and Lance couldn't stop him. Suddenly, Lance's necklace fell to the floor. That's how Mash discovered a picture of a little girl. He couldn't believe Lance was a lolicon, and he wanted to call the police to arrest him. As a result, Lance said that he didn't have a lolicon complex, but a sister complex instead. Then Mash returned his necklace to him. Mash was asked what the most important thing in the world. Mash replied that cream puffs is the most important thing in the world, and his answer was wrong. Suddenly, Lance got angry, and he said that the most precious thing in the world is his little sister. After that, Lance ran to a cliff, wanting to take advantage of Mash's good nature. He did all the bad deeds for his little sister. Then we see Lance and his little sister, Anna. She was angry that he got into a fight. He replied that he just fell, but Anna knew the truth. The reason Lance got into a fight was because he helped strangers who were being bullied. Lance loved his good-natured little sister, but one day, Anna got sick. She was slowly losing her magical powers. Also, in 5 years, the Bureau of Magic would have executed her because for losing her magic power. The parents accepted Anna's fate, and Lance was furious. He decided to become a divine visioner to save his little sister. Lance then dropped the magic item, and he reinforced the fall with gravity magic. Mash got ready, and he said hamstring magic activated. Lance thought Mash could use magic, and Mash went into a deep launch. Suddenly, he started sprinting, and he managed to get the bottle. Besides, he was right back up the hill at a crazy speed. Lance was startled by Mash's superhuman strength, and tried to come up with a plan to win. Mash then said that Lance is actually a good person too. Mash was aware that Lance was just throwing a fake bottle, and he didn't put his friends in danger. Mash wanted to end the fight, and Lance asked why he wanted to end the fight. When he won, Mash's response reminded him of his little sister's words. That's how they ended the fight, and Lance was aware that he had lost. Mash received the silver coin from Lance, and his friends escaped from the bottle. Then Mash was immediately harassed by his friends again, and Mash was annoyed by his friends harassing him. In the following days, we see Mash in the Adler door. He was a math genius, and he was trying to figure out how many silver medals he needed to create a gold one. Mash figured out that 5 minus 2 equals 28. Finn couldn't believe how stupid Mash is, and he realized that they forgot to do their homework. Finn was panicking as they had to make potions for class. Mash tried to cheer Finn up with a cream puff, but he didn't want the snack. Suddenly, Lance appeared. He had already done his homework. Finn was impressed by Lance because he was a top student last year, and he is a model student. Then Mash wanted to tease him a bit. He showed Lance the photo of his little sister. Lance was immediately overwhelmed, and he was smashed into the wall. Mash knew about Lance's weak point, so Lance passed out from the photo of his little sister. Lance then decided to help them to produce some potions. Then Lance said that they needed a mandragora for their potion assignment. The mandragora was screaming the entire time, so Lance showed them a spell to silence the mandragora. Following this, Finn tried the new spell, and he was unsuccessful in his attempt to silence the mandragora. After that, Mash tried to use magic. He only angered the mandragora even more. Finn was distracted, and Lance gave him helpful advice. So Finn managed to make sure that the mandragora was sleeping. Then I thanked him, and his comment was that Lance is a nice guy. Meanwhile, Mash transformed the vegetable into a giant monster. Following this, Mash decided to solve his problem. He slapped the mandragora in the face, so the mandragora was knocked out by Mash's slap. As a result, the mandragora turned into normal vegetables. Afterwards, Lance showed the preparation of the vegetables, and he started to process the vegetables into a high-quality potion. Then Mash imitated all movements and the cooking skills of Lance. As a result, Mash prepared a cream puff with the monster. Lance thought Mash was joking, so he tried to teach Mash how to create some potions. Lance's cooking class was a failure, as Mash only managed to cook cream puffs. Lance couldn't believe Mash was talentless and just a good fighter. Lance suddenly said that he would never lose to Mash again. He also said that Mash is his rival, and he won't lose next time. Then we see Principal Wahlberg wondering about the outdoor classes between the dorms. Meanwhile, students were walking down the school corridor, and they were bumped into by a red-haired guy. He claimed that he was the main character, so he slapped the 3 arrogant students. Then we see the students of the Langdor. The leader gave a speech. He ordered his underlings to rob all the coins from the other dorms. Then we see Mash again. He didn't manage to make a potion and ate his cream puffs with Lance. The next day, outdoor classes at the Eastern Academy began. Then Dot showed up. He also belonged to the Adler door. Dot made fun of Mash. He said that he is the main character of the school. Lemon then appeared. She ran to Mash. Dot was immediately jealous of Mash because Lemon was in love with him. Suddenly, Dot spit on Mash's face because Dot was jealous. The reason was that Dot didn't get Lemon, and the girls avoided him. Mash and his friends ignored Dot, and he got even more angry. Then a teacher showed up. He said that the Langa and Adler dormitories have to fight monsters today. Today, they can collect a lot of coins, and the value of the coins is determined by the strength of the monsters. Then the monster hunt started in the forest, and a student from the Langa dormitory showed up. Silver didn't like Mash because Mash is very famous in their school. Suddenly Mash was attacked, and the teacher stopped the two. Their angry Silver said they were just playing, and Mash was angry. He wanted to punch the other student, but Lance stopped his friend. Mash learned that Silver is a year older than them. Also, he is very dangerous. Lance said he belonged to the Langdor. Suddenly, Lance realized that Mash was only angry because Mash fought his cream. Puff got squished. Now Lance and Mash were going into the forest, but Mash got lost in just a short time. Then Dot bumped into Mash, and Mash slapped him for talking nonsense. Dot wanted to start a fight with Mash, but he heard a girl's voice. Then a girl screamed for help, and Dot cast a fire spell against a guy. He saved that girl from another magician. She thanked Dot, and he fell in love with the rescued girl. As the girl then seduced Dot, she had Dot fell in love with her instantly. Meanwhile, Silver defeated two strong monsters, and he got his first silver coin. After that, Dot got very nervous, and he couldn't believe the girl was interested. Suddenly, the silver-haired girl realized that Dot is very gross. She lies to him, and she continues to compliment him. Also, Lauren could use a spell to seduce guys. She then tried to seduce Mash, but she failed to seduce Mash. The reason is that Mash doesn't care about anything, so Mash had a strong resistance against Lauren's spells. Lauren Cabas tried to seduce him again. She failed to seduce Mash, and she couldn't believe her spell didn't work against him. The girl accepted her failure, and she tried to take advantage of Dot. Then she said that a guy named Silver was threatening her. The girl said that he is a stalker, and she is desperate because he always seeks her out. Then Dot replied that he would protect the girl. Silver suddenly appeared, and he attacked them immediately. Dot countered with his fire spells. He used his machine gun's X-bomb spell and shot a dangerous fireball at Silver. So, Dot caused dangerous explosions, and Silver was hit by all the fireballs. Mash just watched the fight while he ate cream puffs. Meanwhile, Finn and Lemon were happy to meet Lance in the dangerous forest. Lance was concerned Mash was getting into trouble again. Then we see the fight between Dot and Silver again. Silver protected himself against the attacks of the explosion spells with his iron magic. Suddenly, Silver showed him his magic spells, and he was able to hurt Dot. Meanwhile, Mash was shocked that his cream puff fell out of his hand. Dot didn't know what he should do now. He thought Mash was weak and didn't want to involve him in his problems. Suddenly, Silver offered them an absurd deal. Dot accepted the absurd deal, and Silver said the mushroom head Mash would be next. Dot wanted to protect the weak Mash, and he said that Silver was allowed to attack him 10 times. Silver agreed to the deal of Dot, so Silver used his Iron Fist spell, and Dot was seriously injured. However, Dot was hit by countless strong attacks, but he didn't give up. Dot stood to the end, and he was ready to keep taking the last attacks. He knew he was stupid for risking his life for a girl, but he is satisfied that in return he can protect them all. After that, Silver prepared a powerful attack, and he concentrated more magic into his attack. Dot was defeated by Silver, and he still managed to get up after 10 attacks. He then went to Silver, and he had no more strength to say anything. Dot fell to the ground, and Silver looked down on him. Then Dot told Mash to escape with Lauren Cabas. Suddenly, Lauren Cabas confessed that she and Silver are friends. The girl insulted Dot and said he was pathetic. Then Silver wanted to use Dot as his toy, but Mash stuffed his mouth with a cream puff. Mash was angry and offered to play the same game with Silver. Meanwhile, Lance was worried about his friend Mash. He explained to Lemon that there are different magicians. Silver is one of the red mages, and they are very dangerous because they can cast powerful attack spells. Silver continued to look down on Dot for acting like a hero. Silver then wanted to finish him off, but Mash tried to punch Silver with one of his attacks. His attack was blocked, and he said Mash would lose against him. The arrogant Silver looked down on Mash, and he attacked Mash. However, Mash was hit several times by his Iron Fist spell. Mash could withstand them all with ease, and he set himself up for his attack. Then Mash said Triceps magic activated. Mash ran towards Silver, and he was unstoppable. The spell of Silver didn't work on Mash, and Silver was punched by Mash. Suddenly, Silver was bleeding, and he couldn't accept that he had lost to Mash. Silver tried to attack Mash with all his power, but Mash showed him the true power of his muscle. He slammed his infinite steroids power into the ground, so he was able to severely injure Silver. Silver was afraid by Mash, and Mash S80 down. He waited for Silver's next attack. Mash said they could keep playing, but Silver knew that by continuing he will die as a result. Silver noticed that Mash is a monster, and he wanted to try to escape from Mash. Suddenly, a huge monster appeared, and Silver was happy, thinking that he would manage to escape. Then the monster tried to attack Mash, but he defeated him with just one attack. Silver couldn't believe it, and he thought he would die. Suddenly, Mash said he felt sorry for him, so Mash decided to stop their fight. Then Mash turned around, and Lauren Cabas started to cry. She tried to trick Mash, and Mash went and hugged Lauren Cabas. After that, the girl thought that she had managed to seduce Mash, but Mash is actually Triple H, so the girl was punished by his wrestling skills too. Following this, all enemies were defeated, and Dot thought Mash was crazy.
Take you